911, what's the address of the emergency? Hi, I'm at Cherokee 1 apartment or condo complexes in Aurora. There's 2 people in the car here. We're going to check on them, but they both look like they've been shot. I think they're both unresponsive.
We didn't know whether this was a drug deal. We didn't know whether this was a neighborhood dispute that ended poorly. All we were sure of at the time was that there was a shooting, that 2 people had been killed. And the victims were identified as Joseph and Jossline Roland. And so this is husband and wife. When we start to canvass, it used to be, let's go and knock on a door. Let's ask what they heard. Let's ask what they saw. That still is occurring, except in addition, it's now, do you have any cameras outside? Is it recording, and can we have that recording? We were able to contact a man who did have a Ring doorbell.
When I was looking at the video that night, there were 2 vehicles that were involved. One of them was a dark-colored SUV, and it had some very distinctive rims on it. The other vehicle was the Roland's vehicle.
The driver of the dark SUV exits and walks back towards the white SUV where the 2 victims were seated. There's a conversation.
You couldn't hear any of the conversation that was going on. What you could hear, though, is 5 distinct gunshots.
And so that's where the investigation began. What kind of cars have these rims on them? Detectives also locate a white envelope, and there was $1,300 of cash in there. Written on the front of the envelope was the number 5 and the letter K. There should have been $5,000 in that envelope. This was a robbery.
Joe and Jossline Roland are my parents. Jossline and my dad have been married since I was 4. So, I mean, every memory that I have with my dad, I have with her. My dad was the best dad. Yeah, my dad was my best friend. We liked to work on cars together. He would peruse the apps and find cars, and it was a great bonding activity for us.
She tells us that her dad has a hobby, that he buys and sells cars on the side and uses resale apps like Let Go, like Craigslist.
On August 14th of 2020, my dad and I were going to go look at a Toyota RAV4 together. I was supposed to go with my dad that night, but Jossline went instead.
Now we've narrowed it down to not only what application Joseph was using, but what kind of car he's looking at buying. So at this point in the investigation, we have Joseph's phone, and my partner opens the Let Go app, and that's when he finds the conversation. That's when we first see the name James Worthy.
James Worthy was selling a Toyota RAV4 that looked exactly like the RAV4 that we saw in the surveillance videos. It was a dark RAV4, it had the same distinctive rims. James Worthy was a brand new person to Let Go. They had no prior reviews, no prior sales.
Within that conversation, we know that Joseph is asking what condition the car is in, how many miles, and more information about the actual sale of the car.
Joseph Roland asked to meet in a well-lit area, and from the text messages we could gather, they actually went to that location. The last text message was, "I'm here."
The other thing that my partner found was that the car had been reported stolen and is in the Aurora Police Department impound. Then he discovers that James Worthy is no longer an active profile, but he finds a different profile that has the exact same vehicle for sale.
There was an individual by the name of Jessica Harlan trying to set up the same type of buy that the Rolands had fallen into. The vehicle that the police had in custody was still being sold on Let Go. Essentially, we have a killer on the loose, and they're actively trying to do something like that again.
We need to speed up what we're doing. And so I call Andy McDermott. He's known for his experience with digital data.
There was a Google Gmail address that was used to set up the Letgo account. So I requested subscriber information from Google. The name associated with that account was Kyrie Brown.
Kyrie Brown didn't have a permanent residence or a permanent job, so there wasn't a great way to go track him down immediately.
And so we had to rely on the technology. Now we need to figure out if the phone's being used, and if the phone's being used, where.
We're receiving these updated location pings, and we determined that the device is very likely inside this detached garage. And so while we're waiting for our SWAT team to get set up and make their approach to the residence, we see Kyrie Brown come out of the garage. At the same time, there's a white pickup traveling north through the alley. Kyrie Brown jumps in the passenger side of that vehicle, and they leave the area. Based on the really violent nature of this case, we decided that it was worth pursuing him.
Somebody needs to get on the north side of him. The only way out of here is north.
So the chase leaves North Aurora, and it moves into Denver. Very high rates of speed.
We made contact. We'll wait here. Tell me we made contact. 29th and Central. We're hitting him now.
Eventually, the Aurora Police Department had to do what's called a pit maneuver.
Get guns on him! Don't move your hands!
Both the driver as well as Kyrie Brown was taken into custody at that point. Kyrie Brown was 18 years old.
I think you're being emotionally honest with me. I don't think you're being completely honest. About what? Did you ever meet up with anyone? When you try to sell this? I know about you. And what would you say if I said I had information otherwise?
He was very reluctant to tell us a story that even resembled the truth.
You were driving this car. I know this is your email. You outside place.
So eventually in the police interview, Kyrie Brown confessed that he'd shot Joseph Roland. He got shot 3 times, and Kyrie Brown said that he accidentally shot Jossline Roland. She was hit 2 times.
Kyrie tried to say that it was just supposed to be a robbery, that it wasn't supposed to be a shooting. Accidental or not, Kyrie, you shot 2 people and you killed them.
He didn't just take 2 people, he took an entire community that they created.
I can't even tell you how many people have contacted me saying how much my parents impacted their lives. And we all deal with this every single day.